Should you train like Serge Nubret, French bodybuilder, one of the most famous bodybuilders with the greatest physiques of all time? Most people train more or less the same all the time. Average training sessions, more or less same number of sets, same number of reps, but they all get average results. Now, I believe that training heavy was the way to go. I spent years and years of training heavy duty, but that didn't take me anywhere until I met Serge Nubret in Paris, and that changed everything. It changed completely my bodybuilding career. By the end of this video, you will learn what Serge Nubret used to do, what his training system is, and I will answer the question, should you do the same? I'm Dr. Nash Jocic, former bodybuilding champion with experience of over 40 years in bodybuilding. During this time, I trained more than 3,000 clients. I won 17 competitions out of 46 that I competed in. And also, I managed to publish 10 ebooks for you. They're all on my website. You can just click the link down in the comments and you can access them. So let's dive into today's topic. Let me give you my experience. The way that I was training was more or less the same as everybody else in those days. I was chasing weights, heavy weights. I thought that lifting heavy, doing force reps, doing extremely heavy sets with anywhere from 3, 4 to 6, 7, 8 reps was the way to go. I tried for years. I managed to get some size, but I was completely different. I wasn't a bodybuilder. I didn't look like anything that I wanted to do, wanted to be, that I really wanted to look like. And that actually brought me to the point that I started doubting my training system, and I started doubting that training like everybody else is going to take me anywhere. Then I decided to travel to France. I met Serge Nubret, and I was completely shocked when I discovered that he basically trained very, very differently that I knew before, and most of us in those days knew. He was doing something very, very different. So I was watching him train. I spent a couple of months in 2 occasions in 82 and 83 in Paris just for that purpose, and I just couldn't believe that the man was doing up to 40 sets per major muscle group. So sometimes Nubret would perform 4 sets for chest, 4 exercises for chest, 10 sets each. Sometimes he would perform just one. I watched him doing bench press for 40 sets in around an hour. So this was a mind-boggling experience. It was very, very drastic. It was very, very different. And I just couldn't believe that this is the system that may actually propel me to greatness, that maybe I'm one day going to look like him. Because everybody in the gym, all these guys who were there, most of them actually were looking amazing. They were all lean. Everybody was covered with veins. Everybody had a six-pack. The only thing that they had in common was actually training system. They all trained more or less like Serge Nubret, doing as many sets as they could have done. So although I was very, very inspired by him, I was delighted to be around him. At the same time, I was really disappointed because I realized that I was literally wasting years before I really saw so many great bodybuilders in his gym, training under his supervision, his own training method. So I spoke to him and I asked him, what should I do? I was about 112 kgs then, kind of chunky, big, but completely out of shape. I didn't have basically any roundness on my muscles. I wasn't dense. I was just a lump, right? So he looked at me and said, listen, don't worry, just do what everybody else does. Try to do as many sets as you can. And, don't be obsessed with weights. Don't just think about lifting as heavy as possible, because this was me. This was me for good 4 or 5 years. And he says, the results just come. So while I was in Paris, immediately, of course, I started doing that. And the most shocking thing for me was that I had to drop the weights. For example, I remember I used to bench somewhere around 140 kgs for a few reps, 4 or 5 reps, and I thought that everybody will be impressed to see me doing that, but actually nobody was doing that. People were usually doing 70, 80 kgs, repping and doing set after set after set, and then changing. So weights that they used, they were not huge, but they used them in a very different manner. So I dropped the weights and I tried. I remember I dropped the weights to 80 kgs bench press. So I thought, now I'm probably gonna do like 10 sets of bench press and then I move on. But once I completed 12 reps with 80 kgs and I attempted to do another set, the reps dropped. So I wasn't anymore in the range of 12. And the third set was already 7, 8 reps, and the fourth set was about 5 or 6. So I clearly wasn't good enough. And I just didn't want to drop down, because I would probably end up with some 40 or 50 kgs at that point, completing 10 sets. But, you know, it was very difficult. Then I would move to incline press, and the same thing would happen. I dropped the weights dramatically, but I still couldn't complete many sets. So after doing, I believe it was 12 sets altogether for my chest, that completely expired. I couldn't do anything else. And I was only on 12 sets. There's nothing close to 40. And I remember next day, I just couldn't move my arms. I was so sore everywhere. Soreness was huge, meaning I've done something. I was never sore like that before when I did heavy weights in less sets and less reps. And I also was very hungry. Obviously, my metabolism was much faster because I've done a lot of damage to my muscle fibers, the ones that I've trained. And I was convinced that this is something very different, but at the same time, it was extremely hard. And I just thought for a second, probably this is why most of the people don't want to train this way and use this system, because it's extremely hard. It was much easier to pile heavier weights, do 5, 6 reps, do 2, 3 sets, and then move on. It was difficult. It was obviously, as I like to call it now, more laboring than training. But however, I mean, for me, doing more sets, more reps was extremely difficult. So I continued doing that, and eventually I managed to bring up my sets to 15, then 18, then 20. So I started changing at the same time. I obviously changed my diet as well. I started eating more protein, less carbohydrates, as he advised me. And I was becoming much more responsive to that type of training. And I remember the day when I actually managed to do 25 sets. I went up to 30 for back and legs. And funny enough, these two muscle groups actually became my best body parts. So I don't know if that is related to my ability to actually persist with my back and my legs to do as many sets as I just mentioned, up to 30. But over the years, during my competitive career, I actually managed to develop great back and legs. And thanks to my legs, actually, I believe I was winning most of my shows, because in those days, not many people had big legs. I mean, this is the case even today, because people are absolutely obsessed with lifting heavy weights. Now, for legs, you need a little bit different. Even Arthur Jones, who was the father of heavy duty, the real one, he introduced Nautilus equipment and training to failure, etc. But he would say that legs are built for walking, and legs are different muscles than upper body muscles. While the upper body muscles will respond great with 8 to 12 reps, legs, he said, they would require more. They would require 20, 30, maybe more reps in some cases to start growing. And I experienced that on my own skin. And even now, when I'm doing legs, the minimum number of reps is 12. And I usually start with 25, 30 reps. Let's say if I start with leg press, this is my first set. I go with this, I keep the same weight throughout the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever sets I do. I keep the same weight. I start with 30 reps, and then slowly the reps start coming down. But once they come down to 15 or even hit 12, this is my last set. So I still have very good legs, not just big, but also in great shape. And I know that this have a lot to do with type of training that I'm still using. So I tried to do 40 sets like Nubret, But I think that only happened a few times for my back. I couldn't do 40 sets for chest. I never did 40 sets for legs. That was impossible for me. Maybe there's some people who can, but I couldn't. So my number of sets per muscle group was always around 25, and sometimes I went to 30, especially for legs, as I mentioned, and back. But when it comes to chest, usually around 25, shoulders 20, 25, smaller muscle group less, and anywhere from 12 to 15 sets. And that way I actually achieved my best results. So there are a lot of people who constantly ask me and also object and comment on training system that Serge Nubret applied, and they've got an impression, especially commenting on and sending me messages on my channel regarding the videos that I published from Serge Nubret, saying the following. First of all, they would say, oh, this is not possible. There's no way I'm going to do 40 sets for back or chest or legs or something like that. This is impossible. I can't do that. So this is just not right. This is one. I never said to anybody to do 40 sets. I'm just giving you an example how somebody like Serge Nubret has done it. Then people would say, oh, this is only for guys who take steroids. Natural bodybuilders cannot do it. Well, the simple answer to that is there were a lot of people who were taking steroids even then in his days, but they never looked like him, not even close to him. There are even more people now who are taking steroids, even more than he used to do, and people with him in those days in 70s. But they are far cry from Serge Nubret's look, for his size, for his shape, for his proportion and symmetry and his conditioning. Nobody ever looked like Serge Nubret, right? And people took even more steroids. People say, oh, but he took thyroid hormones. Well, other people took thyroid hormones as well. You can take it, but let's see what happens. So the point is that the only difference between him and the rest of the elite bodybuilders then and now is in his training method. Also, his diet was very distinctive, very drastic. It was mainly based on protein. But also there are other people who did the same diet and they didn't look like him, nothing close to him. Even modern bodybuilders now, they're eating 500-600 grams of protein a day, the same as Nubret used to do. But they don't look like him. They're mainly bloated, they're swollen, their midsections are like 3 times bigger than Serge Nubret. I mean, just look at these images. It's striking that people don't see what is the main difference in the whole approach. The main difference in the case of Serge Nubret was his training method, because nobody has ever done 40 sets per muscle group. Yes, there were 2 guys who did it. There was Steve Michalik did it. Steve Michalik built good physique, but again, nothing close to Serge Nubret. And also John Defendis followed Steve Michalik, because John Defendis was his student. And John Defendis looked great, but again, nothing similar to Serge Nubret. So we are talking about an extreme specimen, right? That man was something completely different. He was very, very special. So this is just the answer to all of you who think that doesn't apply to you, that you will never be able to do 40 sets. And it is true. I wasn't doing it. Many other people didn't do it. So why I'm telling you all of this? Why I'm actually telling you about Serge Nubret? What's the point? Well, the point is that I'm giving you an idea, I'm giving you an option to think outside the box. So this is the idea. So number one thing that you need to understand is that the principle, number one principle of his training was volume over load. So instead of pretending to be powerlifters and dreaming about body like Serge Nubret, you should decrease the load and increase the volume. You need to increase the number of reps per set, because usually you are not doing enough reps. Most of the guys are doing low number of reps. But you should keep for upper body muscles, you should be anywhere from less than 8 and up to 12. And for lower, for quadriceps especially, you need to be from 12 to 20, if not more. So this is the number one thing. So volume over load, and also number of sets. You just simply don't do enough sets. You don't stimulate enough metabolic changes and sarcoplasmic growth, which is actually the dominant growth in bodybuilders. So if you don't do enough sets and enough reps, that is never going to happen. So idea is, example of Serge Nubret is here to serve you, to get thinking outside the box and increase the number of sets. So if you were doing 12 sets for chest, why don't try to do 18 sets or 20 sets? Don't be stuck into thinking of training like everybody else, because nobody else is doing as many sets and reps. But it doesn't matter. Why don't you give it a go? So increase the number of sets and number of reps, and you will see what is going to happen. I never said that you should do 40. You will probably never do 40, regardless of you're natural or you're taking steroids, regardless of how much steroids you take. That is never going to happen because it simply never happened. Arnold didn't do 40 sets. Sergio Oliva didn't do 40 sets. The armies of professional bodybuilders didn't do 40 sets. But this is not the main thing. It's not the reason why you should go back into your thinking box and get stuck with that heavy-duty dogma and trend and continue to lift weights instead of using the weights. Weights should be your tools, and your muscle growth should be the end. It shouldn't be the other way around. And unfortunately, everywhere I look around the gyms, around the world, wherever I go, wherever I travel, I see opposite. I see that the muscles are the means and the weights are the goal. So most of the people are trying to be either weightlifters or powerlifters. They're not even that, because for powerlifting, you have to be completely different. You have to have a structure, you have to have proportions for powerlifter, you have to have completely different training systems. So you're neither a powerlifter, you're neither a bodybuilder. I don't know where you are, somewhere in the middle, trying to achieve God knows what, neither of those things. So the number one thing, the number one principle that you have to understand is that volume overload. So this is the point. This is why I'm talking about this guy. Now, the second principle that you should pay attention to is hormonal response. When you're training with higher volume, and especially with shorter rest, but I'll talk about that in a minute, you will be producing much more growth hormone, and you will be speeding up your metabolism much faster than if you do lower number of sets and you rest between the sets 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes. Like you come to the gym, you spend 2 hours and you've done 10 sets. So what do? Your overall workout is 10 sets times 20 seconds is 200 seconds. And what do you do for the rest of the 2 hours? Talking, walking around, talking on the phone, sending messages. That's not a workout. It isn't going to take you anywhere. So that hormonal response and metabolic boost will never be the same if you're doing high volume workout with high number of sets and reps, and if you do lower volume workout with lower number of sets and lower number of reps. So there is another principle that I want you to learn from this method, and this is not to be locked into the 4x4 structure. Most of you guys are training 4 or 5 exercises for upper body muscles in 3 to 4 sets. And this is like, I don't know, that comes directly from God. It has to be that way. So 16 sets, 12 sets, that's enough. Every movement should be done in 4 sets. I mean, whoever said that? Serge Nubret would do 40 sets. Just bench press for chest. I've seen it myself. Sometimes he would do 2, sometimes 3 movements. What I learned from that, I learned myself that, for example, when I do legs, I started leg press and I don't count sets. I just go as much as I want, as much as I feel, as much as I can. So sometimes it's never 4. The lowest number of sets, for example, when I do leg press is 5. But most often I do 6, 7, 8, sometimes up to 10 sets of leg press. Then I move on. Then I will do squats, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 sets of squats. And then I will do maybe 4 or 5 sets of lunges, or maybe 4 or 5 sets or more of leg extensions. And this is my quads workout. So I would hit 20 sets in 2, sometimes in 3, sometimes in 4 exercises. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be 4 sets in 4 exercises. So this is another principle that will take you outside the box and give you that freedom to experiment and then see what works for you. Now the fourth principle that comes out of his workout is actually short rest between the sets. Nubret used to do very short rest between the sets. Upper body will be anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds max. And for the lower body, he would do maybe 60 to 90 seconds. And this again contributes to much higher intensity, believe it or not. Is completely opposite that you think, oh, if I rest 5 minutes, I can lift more weights. Again, you're talking about lifting weights, powerlifting. Fine, if you want to be a powerlifter. But bodybuilder, if you want to have a body like Serge Nubret, that is not going to happen. You need to get that muscle done. And if you rest too long, the muscle will recover between the sets. So every next set, it will become like a new little workout for you. So sets, instead of being like a chain attached to each other with a short rest between the sets, they become like mini workouts within the workout. Effect is not very good. So it's much higher intensity if you lower the number of seconds or minutes between your sets. Also, you will increase your pump. Pump is also important, although it's not absolutely essential, but is important. And also focus, because you can't train like this with short rest if your mind is somewhere else, if you're talking to people in the gym while you're training. And I remember Nubret saying to us, we would sit down, he comes in and start doing it. Before he starts his workout, he would say, guys, if you have anything to ask me, you will ask me after I finish the session. Don't talk to me during the session. No mobile phones, no distraction, nothing. Just focus. And that focus, 100% focus, is the fifth principle that you should take from his training method and apply in your case. So no Instagram, no Facebook, no text messaging, no chatting with others in the gym. You need to have a total mind-muscle connection, and you have to be 100% focused on what you're doing. You are there to build muscles. You are there to stimulate growth. And that is not going to happen if you're there half-hearted. If you're just 20% of your attention is in your training, but the rest of it is, showing off how good you are in lifting heavy weights, sending messages, looking on Instagram, posting on Instagram, etc. That is not going to happen. So the question that I'm trying to answer in this video is, should you do like Serge Nubret? Should you just copy and paste? Can you just do the same workout? No, you shouldn't. As I mentioned, there are so many others, so many professional bodybuilders, advanced bodybuilders, including myself, who never did it. We tried, but we couldn't do it. So that doesn't mean that you're not going to grow if you don't train like Serge Nubret. But you will have to take the most important principles from his workout and apply it to yourself. In that way, you will benefit greatly from this training method, which is obviously based on principles that he applied. So how many sets should you do? If you're doing, let's say, 12 sets now, I can't do 40, Serge Nubret system is not good for me. No, wait a little bit. You're doing 12 sets. Why don't you try to up to 15 sets or maybe 20 sets? Drop the weights a little bit, add another set, add another few extra reps per set. Let's see what happens. Do that for 3-4 months. Do the photos every 2 weeks of your body, and then look, judge yourself. Make an effort. Nobody said it's going to be easy. I remember when I hit that 40 sets for my back was sore for 10 days. I couldn't move my arms up. But that happened a few times only. But it wasn't for me. It was killing me. There were other people as well who tried, they just couldn't do it. I was much better of doing around 25 sets, as I mentioned, per upper body muscles. And also for legs. Sometimes, especially for back and legs, I would hit up to 30 sets. But I never did 40. So you don't have to do the same as Serge Nubret. That doesn't mean that system is not working. It's not just good for you. It was good for Serge Nubret, but not for many other people. I don't know any professional bodybuilder who ever managed to train the same way as Serge Nubret. So again, he was one and only, and this is why he was the way he was. And we have to, admit it. So once again, I would like to wrap it up that your best takeaway from this video is to learn about 5 core principles of Serge Nubret method, his way of training. The number one principle is volume overload. Number 2 is hormonal response. That high number of sets and high number of reps will force you to produce more growth hormone and speed up your metabolism, which will directly help your body to burn, force your body to burn more body fat. Number 3 principle is exercise variety and sets. So don't think that you have to do 4 times 4 structure. You can do one exercise, usually the first one, in 10 sets, and then do another 3 exercises, maybe 3, 4, 5 sets, whatever. It doesn't matter. But don't just follow the rules, because they're going to cut your wings. You're not going to be following your body's response. You're just going to be doing like everybody else. And most of it is very average. And this is why results for most of the people in most of the gyms is just average. Number 4 principle, short rest. Don't rest too much. All you need to rest is minimum necessary amount of time, not the maximum. I've seen people doing bench press and 4 of them training together. Everyone is doing it every 5-6 minutes. And then they chat and they talk and they scream at each other, support each other, encourage each other. And then the other guy goes. And then you end up doing like every 5-6 minutes. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, what is that? I mean, it's great fun. It's great social occasion. If you want that, amazing. If you want to lift heavy weights, amazing. Where are the results? Well, this is a different story, different business. So short rest between the sets, as short as possible. Number 5 principle is 100% focus. So in order to complete this high volume workout, which is high sets and high number of reps, relatively high number of reps, you need to be focused 100%. No distractions, don't use your phone, leave your phone in the bag or in the locker. Just focus on your workout. That will help you to rest enough, to do proper form, and it will push you through, because unless you're 100% focused, you will never be able to do 25, 30 sets per muscle group. Don't worry about 40. Leave 40 to Serge Nubret. But I'm talking about the principles. So now I have given you 5 core principles of Nubret training system that you should apply to yourself, regardless of how many sets you end up with. So, guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel and like the videos, also share the video. And I would like to remind you once again that I have published 10 ebooks. They're all available on my website, nashfittraining.com, but also on my website you will find other services with which I can help you to improve, to build muscles faster than ever and burn fat faster than ever you imagine. So we can work together. This is how I can help you. We can work one-to-one. We can do that through personalized training programs, nutritional programs, telephone consultations, and online coaching, and also personal training one-to-one for people who live in London. So until the next video, I wish you all the best and take care of yourselves.